Welcome to a new episode of KLANG CUT, KNM's podcast on contemporary music and artistic research. Today I'd like to introduce our new long-term project, Crippled Symmetries. Starting from Morton Feldman's piece Crippled Symmetry, the series looks at ideas of repetition, variation and renewal from different cultural perspectives. Through recycling, ritual practices, and the way spaces guide how we listen and move, like in the model of the Chinese garden. Thank you to all those who listened to the first 5 episodes, which were dedicated to our project Exhibited Music. I'm Thomas Bruns, the artistic director of the ensemble KNM Berlin, as this project will keep us busy for quite a long time and involves many international partners. There will certainly be several more episodes. As this is the first episode of Crippled Symmetries, I would like to mention all the partners involved. The Busan International Contemporary Music Festival in South Korea, the Department of Musicology at the Free University of Berlin, Frequenz Festival at Kiel, the Goethe Institute Lima, the Greek National Opera's Alternative Stage, Kulturbüro Elisabeth, März Musik from the Berliner Festspiele, and Studio 8 Taipei. The project is funded by the German Federal Cultural Foundation, funded by the Federal Government Commissioner for Culture and Media. The Berlin Senat Department for Culture provided also kind support. Crippled Symmetries is an international concert series and festival taking place in Athens, Berlin, Busan, Kiel, Lima and Nantou. The title has been taken in plural from Morton Feldman's late work, Crippled Symmetry, from 1983 and put into an intercultural context. This work is fundamentally about patterns, recurring basic patterns and their variations over a long period of time. The play with patterns always balances the dual aspects of symmetry and asymmetry, repetition and renewal. But what does this weighty pair of repetition and renewal mean for today's composers with different cultural backgrounds and personal experiences? We have simply asked involved artists, how do you feel about repetition, resetting, recycling, rereading or reenactments? But Morton Feldman's late oeuvre is not only the project's only reference worth mentioning. In 2024, I visited the Textile Museum in Oaxaca in southern Mexico. There was an exhibition called The Sun Among the Threads, featuring patterns in textile and other everyday items from indigenous communities. Following the path of the Norwegian explorer Carl Lumholtz, the exhibition presented how elements and phenomena of nature are abstracted and geometrized in ritual objects and actions, as well as in everyday objects and textiles from different cultures. This connection between nature, ritual, abstraction, and everyday life is fascinating and encompasses many contemporary issues. In cultural practice, this relationship often manifests as recurring patterns, exhibiting great variety due to the local influences and cultural conditions, as well as technical errors in craftsmanship. Comparing similar patterns from different cultural backgrounds inspired me to consider the universality of artistic and musical gestures, as well as their local and personal perspectives. But now let's spend 5 minutes immersing ourselves in Morton Feldman's Crippled Symmetry. On December 6 in 2025, it was performed by the ensemble KNM Berlin with Rebecca Lanton, Joseph Houston and Michael Weilacher at the Berlin prologue to Crippled Symmetries. we enjoyed an extraordinary performance by Rebecca Lenton flute, Joseph Houston piano and celesta, and Michael Weilacher percussion at Villa Elisabeth in Berlin. In terms of reviews, recycling goes hand in hand with repetition and renewal. The Crippled Symmetries series opened at the Busan International Contemporary Music Festival in southern South Korea on 30th of October 2025, with a focus on recycling. The Argentine-Mexican composer-performer Ana Maria Rodriguez and Juan Felipe explored the concept of cyclicality from the perspective of upcycling. In the form of a three-dimensional soundscape, the artists recycled the sounds of paper, homemade instruments, cardboard, and packaging materials found in the Busan harbor. The performing duo was joined by the traditional percussionist Jong Yung Kang, as Busan has a strong shamanistic tradition. The performers wanted to link their work to a ritual practice in some way, as repetition is at the heart of such rituals. I was happy to create some video work using footage of rubbish and found objects, as well as the instruments used by the performers. We performed in a car park right by the harbor. The car park belongs to a beautiful restaurant with an art gallery, all under one roof in an old warehouse. This space reminded us of Berlin's golden age in the 90s and 90s, when empty or hidden spaces were used for artistic interventions. But now let's listen to a 5-minute excerpt from this performance in Busan. Enjoy. This was an excerpt of Make Beauty Out of Debris by Ana Maria Rodriguez and Juan Felipe with traditional percussionist Jong Yung Kang. As mentioned in the beginning, some of the events of the Crippled Symmetries series will take place in Taiwan. The setting there is equally interesting, though quite different. In October, I traveled to Taiwan to prepare the project. This podcast will feature my interview with Chien-Fu Lai from the Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art in Nantou, one of our partners there. I met Chien-Fu Lai at the Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art in Nantou, central Taiwan. The museum is celebrating its 10th anniversary 2026. However, due to a change in the exhibition, the museum will be empty. This means that there will be no art objects on exhibited in September 26. To fill this gap, Crippled Symmetries has been invited to create an acoustic and musical journey for the audience to discover the unique architecture and atmosphere of the place. The Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art has got some special features. Firstly, it is located in the countryside, far from any urban area. The question arises, how and why will audience get there? Secondly, its extraordinary architecture is inspired by the principles of Chinese garden design. Chien-Fu Lai and I already have a collaboration history. We have worked together on several projects over the years. Now, however, we are preparing the Taiwanese part of Crippled Symmetries in his new role at the Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art, and he will oversee the museum's contributions while the artistic direction will be led by composer and curator Fang Yilin.
So I'm Chien-Fu. I am one of the members in this museum called Yu-Hsiu Art Museum in Nantou, and I'm in charge of learning and engagement planning. So I do like education program for kids, or the public event for the participants could reach art in different ways. I was working with a composer as well as a curator, Fang Yi, and we do contemporary music production and project. And my original major instrument called erhu, it's a two-string like violin in Western orchestra, and I played that around more than 10 years, and also have the Western classical music training, education, and then became a producer. But somehow in some decision, I coming back to my hometown, Nantou, and start working in this museum.
For the beginning, let's have a brief chat about the main idea of Crippled Symmetries in Nantou. How cool is that? We're going to use an empty museum for a musical project, which sounds like a great idea to me, also a little strange.
Yes, yeah, that is the origin idea, because people always visit a museum or gallery because there are works, the art. But if there's no art inside, and why we have to visit there? And the other side is when I working here, I can feel there are so many echoes when people speaking in the gallery space. And I thought that would really interesting situation for a musician or composer. So I proposed this idea to the director, also to the Fang Yi. So that's why we began this project. Yeah.
I see. There was this practical reason of an exhibition change, but the building also offers special acoustics. Indeed, When I first entered the museum area, I thought that the place was beautiful not only visually, but acoustically too. But let's talk now about the museum itself. Please give us some insights into why the Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art was built here and what was the intention to build up this museum a little bit far away from some urban areas. It is a longer taxi ride of about 45 minutes without traffic jam to get here.
Yeah, so everybody asks this question, especially their first time to visit here. And it's really not easy to be here. And actually the story is from why Yu-Hsiu Museum was built here in this rather quiet and remote place began from a coincidence, but also a friendship, also a good intentionship. Actually, this village was considered as a national artist village, but the policy just cancellations maybe 2 decades ago because the really huge earthquake. But that time, many artists came here to start their studio here. And one of the artists is Mr. Li Zuxing. He was also the professor in art academy, and he also teach in community club for painting. And one of the students, Mrs. Ye, our board, she is sometimes would visit him. And in the walking, she asked Mr. Li, if you could make one dream come true, what would it be? And Mr. Li said, how's about let's just build an art museum? It's really simple way and to have this place, but there is how to say that, a faith or a wish called, because Mr. Li, as an educator, he thought if we have museum as much as temple in Taiwan, that would be nice because people visit temple often and have different willing and required to visit people and always have the get calm and it's kind of like accompany with life. And he thought art has the similar function with temple. So he thought if we could be the first museum not in urban city, and maybe more people would like to do kind of like this way to have cultural site or cultural institution in like countryside or seaside or in the mountain like us, because people used to visit city with a lot of time and money to reach art.
I understand that the museum was created by 2 artists in an area originally intended to be an artist's village. Rather than basing the design on other museums, the artists were inspired by the concept of a temple, as visiting such places is a widespread and integral part of everyday life for many people, even if they are located in the countryside. This also explains the architecture and the desire to slow down.
We were just talking about the architecture, especially the 3 buildings, but with the 3 buildings, we have a really big garden. So compare the building, the outside area is the most percentage of the whole museum area. And in this garden, we have corridors to make people, when they enter the first gate, they would take 3 minutes to 5 minutes walking around the garden and walk through the corridors. I think it's kind of like a waiting. The waiting make people to think, why I drive more than 1 hour to here and then I have to walk for a while, and where is the gallery? When can I to see the art? But this waiting make people have a time to make their feeling calm, and because when you're passing by the corridor, the light and the shifting shadow would through the gap between different walls, and the architecture, Mr. Liao, he designed some kind of like a frame on the wall, so you can walk through the frame to see different capture of our landscape, but not the whole landscape, and that will make you feel curiosity about. So what is the really whole picture of this museum? And I think that is the first step to remind the visitor observation, and curiosity is the first step about watching art.
I think that's really well done. So when we first entered yesterday, we were guided through those corridors. We could choose from 2 different routes. I think we took the right one, but maybe it's also possible to use the left one. The corridors aren't completely closed, but have some windows which offer different views on the garden and the buildings. But the artwork remains still hidden. After doing some parcours and visiting the coffee shop, you will be guided to the main building. It consists of 3 floors and there's a roof terrace. Additionally, everybody has to make a reservation in advance, right?
Yeah, and I think not only the path designed for audience, but also we do reservation for visiting. Actually, we don't take any attend or visit fee for tickets, but you have to do reservation, especially if you are a group visiting more than 10 people, you have to do the reservation before 14 days. And it means when you heard this secret, as a secret museum, and in not big city, and you read some report on the media, you heard from someone's mouth, and you research, oh, okay, actually there is a museum, and you have to choose which day you want to visit. Okay, so there might be some day, and then when you really do the reservation, you have to make sure which time zone, which time you want to check in. So every step, like, just make you, it's quite like you can't directly get in.
Yeah.
So it will keep your curiosity to visit here. I think that is another slow down for visitor.
I've read that Chinese garden culture is an example of the connection between nature, human beings, and human interventions. And I've also read about the principles of blocking, guiding, and covering. So I now feel that the architecture of this museum follows the idea of the traditional Chinese garden.
Like we just mentioned, there are some corridors in the garden, and there's 3 buildings. So it's quite like in the ancient Chinese palace, always with the garden, and they could just walk in the garden, and the garden there's like a small river and old tree and different pot for different flower or plants, and it's quite like you can cuisine in that garden. So the architecture, Mr. Liao, he used this principle to design, but in a modern way with the concrete and more Japanese and Taiwanese garden landscape design, kind of like that too in this. And because there's some windows and walls in the garden, so it's quite like a block. Make people not directly into the gallery space, and you have to wait and see something and expect something, and then you will through kind of like a tunnel and through the tunnel the sky suddenly uncovering, the whole skyline just pop up to your vision, and then we will see the whole picture of this museum. So I think that is the idea from the architecture.
Chien-Fu, so we have learned a lot about the architecture of this museum, but now let's speak briefly about the art. What we can expect here if we are visiting this museum after having a long journey. Let's speak about the art you are presenting at this museum and about the curatorial ideas of the art you are going to present.
Yeah, so the core of the curation in this museum, we are focusing on contemporary realism. And why we choose realism as our core, because I say when they established this museum is hoping people can reach art easier. So the realism art is always reflecting the people's life and social scene, and the content is more easily understanding because that is not abstract. You can see, like in the painting, you can recognize what they are trying to draw, like a human, a profile picture, or just a still life or something, a scene you are not in your normal life. And that would make the distance shorter between art and audience, because most of audience in this museum are not the target audience who often visit our museum. And realism art is the bridge between people to understand what is art, why artistic creates something, the artwork. Yeah.
So that was my conversation with Chien-Fu Lai at the Yu-Hsiu Museum of Art in Nantou. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can develop there. This marks the end of this edition of KLANG CUT, KNM's podcast, and the next edition will be all about Märzmusik at Berliner Festspiele in March 2026. I hope you enjoyed it and see you hopefully soon.